Hey home bakers, it's Jack here, bakewithjack.co.uk, and if you are struggling with your sourdough, whether it's at the starter stage or the dough stage, understanding its natural life cycle will help you, I promise. Roll that theme tune. Hello to you and welcome back to the Bake with Jack YouTube channel, where if you feel like these videos are coming in a bit of a random, disjointed way, you're not alone. It's Sourdough September, a month to celebrate the real deal. Sorry, October, is it? Crumbs! Last month was Sourdough September, a month to celebrate the real deal sourdough bread with the Real Bread campaign, for which I am an ambassador. Sourdough is something I've always considered to be quite a simple process once you understand what's going on inside. And I'm not saying that to show off in the face of all of you struggling, because I am the king of sourdough. There's loads I don't know about sourdough. I don't know everything about sourdough. I don't think you ever could, but you don't need to know everything to make amazing sourdough at home. Recipes can be long, overwhelming, tedious, exhausting, but if you just understood the natural sourdough life cycle, you'll be laughing your head off all the way to amazing bread every single time. This video is for you if you are struggling to build your starter in the first place. If your starter is bubbling for a while and then seems to have died. If your dough was puffing up for a bit and then stopped. If your starter has split out into two parts and has this gross liquid floating on top and you're not sure why that happened. If this is you, watch this video all the way to the end, because we're going to go off piece for a bit, but then we're going to bring everything together. And just like in my classes, there might be one thing that I say that hits the nail on the head for you. Together we are going to discuss what the natural sourdough life cycle is, and then by the end we'll talk about how that's helpful to you and in what scenarios it might apply to your bread making, whether it's in your starter or in your final dough. First things first, to get your head around this, you need to forget that your starter has a name. Try not to think about Fred or Frank or Margaret or Puffy in that way for now. Forget that your dough is a living and sometimes unpredictable thing. What you really want to think about is yeast, and not baker's yeasts, but the natural yeasts that are present within your starter, within your dough, that make gas bubbles, that turn that dense dough mixture into light and airy dough and then bread. This is the aim of the game, and I know we've been down this road before on this channel, but for those of you who are new, here's the lowdown. Yeasts eat food, flour make gas. The end. This process is called fermentation, and that's as technical as we're gonna get. Yeasts eat food and make gas, but not forever, because when there is no more food, then it makes no more gas. Don't fret, Puffy hasn't died. Don't hold a ceremonial burial in the flour bed and go into mourning. Simply, the yeasts inside have nothing more to eat, and so there is no gas production just now. This is the natural sourdough life cycle, the rise and the fall. When you feed your sourdough starter, you're giving it fresh water and fresh flour. That's food. Yeasts eat the food, yeasts make gas, and yeasts multiply. Your yeasty community is growing in numbers, which means as time goes on, even more food is eaten, even more gas is produced. The longer you go for, the faster the gas is made. The puff accelerates. Food is eaten faster over time. There is less and less food. Food begins to run out, fermentation slows, and eventually stops. Your starter starts puffing. The puff speeds up. The puff slows down. The puff stops. The starter drops. This is the sourdough life cycle, and as with all things bread, it's temperature sensitive. The warmer it is, the quicker it happens. The cooler it is, the slower it happens. But you already knew that, didn't you? Your community of yeast is still in there. It just has no reason or no motivation to make bubbles because they've got no food to make it with. And so they need food in a larger quantity than what's already there, and that's when you make dough. Adding your sourdough starter to a bowl of flour and water is really more about providing additional food for the increased yeast community so they are able to continue making bubbles. And I'll say that one more time if I can remember, just to make sure it's completely clear. Adding your sourdough starter to a bowl of flour and water is really more about providing additional food to your increased yeast community so they are able to continue making bubbles for you. So this natural sourdough life cycle, this process could be helpful to you because it could help you identify what problems you might be having, whether in your starter or in the dough itself. Some of you have got in touch with me having followed my sourdough starter recipe, which on the day that I made it at the temperature in my kitchen was a 3 to 4 day process. Some of you have said to me it's bubbling on day 2 or maybe even day 1, which could be the case because it might be warmer where you are, or maybe your flour's got more good stuff in it, I don't know, whatever. Then you've kept going with the recipe following day 3 and day 4 and the bubbles increased and then stopped completely. It's not dead, it's just at the end of the life cycle. Your yeast community has grown so big that the little bit that you feed it really isn't that satisfying anymore. Remember, the aim of the game is bubbles and increase in volume. If you have those two things, you're ready to make bread. So take it back to the scrapings, ditch the rest and feed it up ready for your bake the following day. If it bubbled once, it will bubble again. If your starter has split out into 2 parts with that like sludgy bit at the bottom and the gross liquid on the top, it's probably because 1, you've used white flour, which is perfectly fine. I just never do. I use wholemeal rye, which means mine's thicker and it will never happen to me. And 2, it's at the end of the life cycle. It's fermented too much and it's broken down. It's at the end of the life cycle and you need to begin again. So take it back to scrapings, ditch the rest, feed it up, ready to start the cycle all over again. And consider using wholemeal flour next time, whether it's rye or wholemeal bread flour. I find it more reliable and never splits out like that. The natural sourdough life cycle, the rise and fall, is exactly the same in your final dough as it is in your starter, because of course it is. Why? How could it not be? In our dough, we are aiming to get yeast population up to maximum numbers for maximum puff production when we bake it. That way, if we bake it just right, that is the point where we get big puff in the oven and that lovely bust open ear on the top of our loaves. This knowledge helps us here because it could help you identify the problem if you're not getting the oven spring that you are longing for. It could be that you are simply at the tail end of the cycle as food begins to run out and puff begins to slow down, or you could not be at maximum puff production yet. You could be at the other end, just building up. You see how this all comes together now? Then, if you feel like you're at the tail end of the cycle and you're not going to get the oven spring that you want, you might want to make another decision. Adjust what you are doing slightly, perhaps. Instead of opting for a big slash down the middle that could be a risk of falling down, smaller cuts all over so it rises up nicely to its full potential as far as it can go, being at the tail end of the cycle. I wanted to make this video because so often I'm sent questions from people in despair entitled, "What did I do wrong?" or "Why is my starter dead?" or "What's wrong with Puffy?" And I get it, that must suck for you, but if you just understood that the rise and fall of your starter is just that the natural life cycle is normal, that is something we work with and not against, then maybe you'd feel a little bit better about the whole thing. I hope this video has helped you, and normally at this time of the video I'd probably say something like, hey, click like if you liked it, click subscribe if you want to stick around, but truth be told, here is 144, I don't know how many videos advert free, unless I have fluffed up the copyright, in which case, which I have done sometimes, and then somebody else comes and puts adverts on my channel. But I've always wanted this to be advert free for you to enjoy without the catch. You don't get nothing in this world without a catch anymore for free, and that's what I want to bring to you every single time. And I can do that because I am out on the road hosting classes, hosting courses, on food festival demonstration stages, but now there is none of that. So all I ask of you today is, if you are looking for bread making bits and bobs to purchase, take a look at the Bake with Jack shop, bakewithjack.co.uk/shop, to see if I've got the bits and bobs that you need before you go and hit up Amazon. That's all. Listen, thank you very much for sticking around. I'm looking forward to bringing you new things in this space. It's slowly taking shape. We got a floor, that's new. We didn't have that last time. We got shelves, we got stuff on shelves instead of in the loft or under the bed or stashed away somewhere all over the house. I'm really pleased. Floor and shelves, what more do you need? Perhaps a kitchen over there. It's on its way. Listen, thank you very much for being here. Whenever I decide to post some sort of disjointed bread making video, I hope you've enjoyed it. I hope you got some value here. I look forward to seeing you very soon. Bye-bye. And there you have it. I hope this video helps you out with your sourdough, which can be a bit of a beast at times. With a few little bits and bobs of knowledge, you'll be smashing it every single time. Don't forget, if you want to get all my content in your inbox every single week, you can sign up for free for the Home Bakers Bulletin. There's a link in the description, and I'll see you next week. Bye bye.